News every 15 minutes, weather every 10, and sports twice an hour.
News Talk KGVO, AM 1290 and now 101.5 FM.
You're listening to Montana Morning with Peter Christian.
No fraud found in Ravalli County Attorney's and Treasurer's Office. Good morning, everyone. This is Montana Morning. It is Wednesday, June the 18th, 2014. A cloudy sky out there this morning, and we are expecting lots of rain before the day is done. Right now we have 43 degrees under a cloudy sky, and our newscast this morning sponsored by Dr. Troy Doxey and the friendly team at Chiropractic Works. For your appointment, call 728-0222. Yesterday, Ravalli County Attorney Bill Fulbright released the final examination of the County Treasurer's Office, formerly headed by now suspended Valerie Stamey, and said the auditing firm of Anderson Jumulin of Helena didn't find any fraud, but they did have to perform an extensive reconstruction of the books because they were in such disarray.
What it did find was what they call a specific lack of performance of the required duties of the Treasurer's Office and disarray in the Treasurer's Office at the time they came in and began the examination.
Fulbright says the firm found almost $1 million that were previously mostly unaccounted for in Valerie Stamey's former office.
$951,000 worth of cash and checks that were simply sitting in Ms. Stamey's office. Some accounted for in the accounting system. None of them deposited at the time that she was placed on administrative leave.
Fulbright says the possibility exists for further legal action against Ms. Stamey, who has been on paid administrative leave since the turmoil at the county treasurers began months ago.
There's been a lot of talk about, and we certainly could have the county commission direct us on behalf of the county to file an official misconduct lawsuit. That would give the board then the authority to suspend Ms. Stamey for the balance of the appointed term, which would end December 31st.
Fulbright says the cost of the county of hiring former District Judge Nell Swandal to perform an investigation into fraud allegations and for the comprehensive audit of the Treasurer's Office are somewhere in the neighborhood of $75,000. There'll be a public meeting of the Ravalli County Commissioners to discuss the report Friday in Hamilton. Montana utility regulators have dropped a proposal to spend $3,000 to hire a former University of Montana law professor to point out constitutional problems with proposed federal regulations to reduce carbon dioxide pollution. Public Service Commission member Roger Koopman says he proposed hiring Rob Natelson, who of course is a regular on our Talkback program, because Koopman believes the proposed Environmental Protection Agency regulations are an overreach of federal power, but he doesn't specifically know how. Natelson, now a senior fellow at the Colorado-based Independence Institute, specializing in constitutional law. He ran twice for the governorship of Montana, was active in conservative politics, and won a grievance filed against the U of M to teach constitutional law there. Koopman withdrew his proposal Tuesday after other commissioners said constitutional questions are a matter for the Attorney General and not the Commission. The former executive director charged with embezzling from a low-income housing organization in Billings has reached a plea agreement that calls for her to pay $33,000 in restitution. The Billings Gazette reports 51-year-old Krista Ann McClure of Denver is scheduled to plead guilty today to misdemeanor theft of public money in exchange for the dismissal of 8 felony counts of fraud and theft. Prosecutors alleged McClure embezzled from a federal rural development grant program while serving as executive director of Housing Montana over a 2-year period ending in April of 2012. The plea agreement calls for McClure to pay $1,000 to each of 11 families within 60 days of sentencing, with the remaining $22,000 to be repaid to the federal government during a period of supervision or probation. This past Saturday, the Frontier Airlines began new flights to Denver out of the Missoula International Airport. Airport Deputy Director Brian Ellistad says the new flights are just one more sign of growth at the airport.
Even before Frontier started, we've had a lot of extra growth. So Alaska started their Portland service early this year, and they plan to extend it into the fall. So that's eventually turning into a year-round route. But our May numbers, we were up 10% May over May of the previous year.
Yesterday, Frontier announced a special deal for travelers that, by the way, is still available for the rest of today.
And then also Frontier announced a 48-hour sale. Tickets are available as low as $49 to Denver one way. And it's for travel between the middle of August through the middle of November.
The airport's expanding with an outside deck to accommodate summer travelers without having to pay heat and cool the added room. When completed, Missoula will be just the third international airport to have an external deck. A 24-year-old Billings man has been charged with stealing a motorcycle and hitting a child in the head as he fled police. The Billings Gazette reports Travis Jacob Harris appeared in Justice Court in Yellowstone County Monday on felony charges of theft, 2 counts of drug possession, and assault on a minor. His bail was set at $15,000. Charging documents say the motorcycle owner reported Harris responded to a for sale ad but didn't return his motorcycle after taking it for a test drive last week. Police spotted the motorcycle at Harris's residence on Friday and confronted him. He ran away. Officers say he shoved one girl and hit another girl in the head as he ran through the yard of a daycare. Officers used a stun gun to subdue him. Missoula's Mountain Line is set to offer free bus rides this week in honor of National Dump the Pump Day. Mountain Line spokesman Topher Williams has these details.
You can get a free ride on Mountain Line this Thursday simply by showing up at any Mountain Line bus stop and hopping on board. And then if you are commuting by bike or bus or by walking and you find yourself downtown, you can swing by the transfer center and get yourself some free coffee between 7:30 in the morning and 9 a.m.
The free coffee will be provided by City Brew Coffee. The added cost of offering free rides will be covered by Mountain Line's general fund. Blowing and drifting snow has forced transportation officials to close Beartooth Pass near the Wyoming-Montana border. Jenny Bingaman, a receptionist with the Montana Department of Transportation, says U.S. Highway 212 between the Vista Point Rest Area in Montana and Long Lake in Wyoming was closed just before 7 o'clock Tuesday morning. She says it's not uncommon for wintry storms to blow through higher elevations this time of year. Montana's gas prices climbed again over the past week. Petroleum analyst Patrick Dehan says the state is likely to see more climbing prices as tensions in Iraq escalate.
The situation in Iraq has tacked on $2 a barrel to the price of crude, basically because of perceived threats to Iraq's 3 million barrels a day that it exports. That's a big concern. It's a significant amount of oil. The U.S., for comparison purposes, produces about 9 million barrels a day.
Dehan says the Great Lakes region has already felt the cost impact of fears over Iraq, but was uncertain if Montana's price had taken the hit yet. Montana prices are still lower than most of the rest of the country.
Well, price in Montana today still under the national average by about 13 cents a gallon. The national average has jumped up about 2 cents a gallon in the last week. That compares to Montana, which saw prices go up about a nickel. Still some low prices, seeing $3.28 at a Safeway in Missoula. So as long as motorists are shopping around, there are still lower prices to be had.
Despite all that's going on in Iraq, prices are still about 11 cents less than they were last year. News Talk time is 6:10.
News Talk, KGVO.
Missoula's official weather station.
Mostly cloudy to cloudy skies with rain likely today. Temperatures remain below normal with their highs in the upper 50s. We'll see wet weather tonight with showers tapering off on Thursday. Highs Thursday will warm into the 70s. I'm meteorologist Brooke Foster for KECI 13.
Thanks, Brooke. Cloudy sky right now, 43 degrees in Missoula. And this forecast and this portion of Montana Mornings brought to you by Paradise Falls. Well, you know what Wednesday is. You've been listening to this show for a while. That's why Wednesday is prime rib night at Paradise Falls. You get a big Paradise Falls special recipe prime rib. Nobody cooks it like they do with your favorite trimmings, just $16.95. The smaller plates, only $11.95.
Information never stops. The news you need right now. More Montana news headlines. News Talk KGVO. Depend on it.
Sponsored by Bitterroot Motors, the number one selling trucks in the USA. For the last 37 years, the F-Series are at Bitterroot Motors with rebates up to $5,250. Prices starting under $30,000. The city of Missoula has passed its fiscal year 2015 budget. Chief Administrative Officer Bruce Bender says nearly two-thirds of that budget will go towards one type of expenditure.
The main issue in the budget was to fund wage increases for the union employees, police and fire, streets, wastewater, and then also an increase for the non-union. These contracted or prior negotiated agreements is the largest burden on the city in that sense.
A proposed public safety and justice special taxing district has been successfully protested by property owners. Now the city needs to find $300,000 to cooperate with Department of Justice requests regarding the handling of sexual assault cases.
We'll try to manage that internally within their budget, and then we'll look for other funding sources One of the things is that we'll be looking for the opportunity when we get our final tax numbers in August. So if our numbers are a little bit higher, we can put some of the extra monies toward those purposes. But we will fulfill our obligations with the Department of Justice.
City Councilman Adam Hertz was one of 2 votes against the budget. He said the city has its priorities way out of order.
The City Council and Mayor have passed a budget that have increased sidewalk funding $200,000. They've hired a conservation lands management research specialist at about $40,000 a year, another worker for the Office of Neighborhoods at $33,000 a year, a lobbyist at $33,000 a year, and they're just funding a lot of non-essential city services.
And property taxes going up 2.8% and fees 3%. For more than 40 years now, Paul Polson's been an economist at the U of M's Bureau of Business and Economic Research. Polson says he's constantly asked which Montana city has the highest tax burden. But after all these years, he still doesn't know the answer.
We have many taxing jurisdictions. It's not just the city of Missoula. It's not just the county of Missoula. It's also the school district, and that depends on